Welcome to the Explainer. To really get into this, I actually want to kick things off by telling you about the absolute worst, most ridiculously caffeine-fueled night of my entire college career. We're talking about the ultimate procrastination nightmare here. So I had this massive assignment, right? And I was given 8 whole weeks to do it. 8 full weeks. But naturally, I opened it exactly once, immediately closed my laptop, and didn't even touch the thing again until exactly 12 hours before the deadline. 12 hours! Just picture this. Empty energy drink cans everywhere, zero sleep, and there I am at 2 a.m. just staring at this totally blank Google Doc that honestly felt like it was judging me personally. Now, I did end up turning it in like an hour before the deadline, got a decent grade, and learned absolutely nothing. But honestly, here's the scariest part of that whole story. I actually convinced myself that was just how I operated. I totally bought into that lie that I just work better under pressure. Sound familiar? All right, Section 1, the myth of laziness, what procrastination really is. Okay, let's really dive into this, because it turns out I wasn't lazy, I wasn't broken, I just never learned the real truth about what procrastination actually is, and more importantly, how to fix it by making it basically impossible to avoid starting. Here is the big secret nobody tells you. Procrastination, it is almost never about laziness. Think about it. If it were, brute force willpower would fix it every time. But it doesn't. You can care so deeply about a project and still completely avoid it for weeks. And that's because procrastination is really a protective mechanism. It's hiding this deep fear of failure or perfectionism or just the sheer paralyzing anxiety of ruining a perfect blank page with a terrible first sentence. They're not avoiding the work, you're avoiding the feeling. But here's the trap we all fall into. If you sit around waiting to fully heal your deep psychological fear of failure before you, say, start your homework or write that big report, well, you're going to be waiting forever. Don't get me wrong, root causes are super important, but they take a really long time to work through, and life doesn't just hit pause so you can sort out all your feelings, right? So what changed everything for me was actually tackling the symptom first, the literal act of avoidance. Because fixing that immediate avoidance creates the breathing room you desperately need to actually deal with those deeper fears later on. Which brings us to Section 2, the core solution. 2 rules, 2 books, 2 problems. Now, the tool that makes tackling that avoidance possible is remarkably simple. It's called the 2-minute rule. But, and here is a massive twist, there isn't just one rule. We actually have 2 completely different versions of this concept from 2 incredibly successful productivity books, and they perfectly complement each other to solve 2 completely different problems. And I promise you, once you understand both of these, you will literally never look at your to-do list the same way again. So on one side, we have David Allen's method from getting things done, and that's designed to stop your to-do list from quietly drowning you in all those tiny, annoying tasks. On the other side, we've got James Clear's method from Atomic Habits, which is completely engineered to help you finally start those massive, scary projects you've been putting off. Let's break them both down. Moving on to Section 3. Rule 1, the quick fix, managing the small stuff. So this first rule comes from David Allen, and it is just beautifully, brutally simple. It goes like this. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, just do it right now. Seriously, don't write it down, don't schedule it in your calendar, don't tell yourself you'll get to it later, just do it. Think about taking out the trash, or replying to a really quick text, watering a plant, filing a document, maybe even just trimming your nails. All this tiny stuff quietly piles up. And here's why Allen's rule works so incredibly well. Writing a 2-minute task down, remembering to do it, feeling guilty about not doing it, and then actually doing it later, well, that uses vastly more mental energy than just doing it instantly. Every small task you leave hanging is basically like a tiny little browser tab left open in your brain. Now, one tab, sure, no big deal. But by 3 p.m., you've got 40 of them open, and you're feeling totally, completely exhausted just from managing a pile of unfinished 2-minute tasks. So naturally, clearing these out instantly closes all those mental tabs. But there is a second, kind of hidden benefit here that is honestly a real game changer. Every single time you finish a small task immediately, you are actively training your brain to adopt a specific identity. You start to see yourself differently. You start saying, hey, I am someone who takes action. And let me tell you, that identity shift doesn't just stay confined to taking out the trash. It absolutely bleeds into everything else you do. Okay, Section 4, Rule 2, the habit starter. Shrinking the monster. And that perfectly tees up James Clear's rule, which solves a totally different problem. It's about shrinking the monster. This is the strategy for those big, intimidating, honestly terrifying tasks you've been avoiding for weeks.
The whole idea here is to take whatever massive task is scaring you and literally shrink it down into a version that takes 2 minutes or less. So, read the entire assignment shrinks down to read just one paragraph. Build a full software project becomes open the file and write just one line of code. But here is the completely counterintuitive part that almost everyone gets wrong. When you are first building this habit, you are literally not allowed to do more than 2 minutes. You study for 2 minutes, and then you deliberately shut the laptop. Seems crazy, right? Why would you stop? Because right now, in the very beginning, you aren't actually trying to finish the task. You are just trying to build the fundamental habit of showing up. You can't optimize or scale a habit that doesn't even exist yet.
Now, this airplane metaphor brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of that tiny start. Think about a plane taking off from Los Angeles. If the pilot changes the flight path by just 3.5 degrees, like a microscopic adjustment, that plane eventually lands in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. Tiny shifts, repeated daily, completely change your final destination over time. A 2-minute coding session today? Yeah, it feels like absolutely nothing. But if you do it every single day for a year, you become a completely different programmer than the person who never even opened their laptop. I do have to give you a quick warning, though, about what the source calls the Valley of Disappointment. So check out this timeline. You show up, you do your 2 minutes, and for a while, well, absolutely nothing seems to change. The progress is totally invisible. And this right here is exactly where most people throw in the towel. But they're quitting right before the compounding results finally kick in. Progress is almost never a straight line. It's a curve that stays flat for a really long time before it suddenly explosively spikes upwards. You just have to push through that valley. All right, Section 5, Making the Rules Stick, Engineering Your Environment. So how exactly do we push through? Well, if you want these 2-minute rules to become completely 100% automatic, you need some structural strategies to rig your environment for success. And you do that by mastering the habit loop: cue, craving, response, and reward. First, make your cue impossible to miss. Like if you want to code, literally leave your laptop open in plain sight. Next, use what's called implementation intentions for your response. Don't just vaguely tell yourself, oh, I'll code tomorrow. No, say, at 7 a.m., I will sit down and code for 2 minutes. Then, stack your habits to create a reward. Tell yourself, right after I brush my teeth, I'll knock out one lesson. And my absolute favorite trick, temptation bundling. Basically, pair a craving with a need. The source actually mentions this student who rigged his exercise bike so Netflix would literally only play if he pedaled fast enough. You can do the exact same thing. Tell yourself, no scrolling on your phone until you've logged your 2 minutes of deep work.
Next up, Section 6, the productive procrastination trap, setting boundaries.
But hold on a second, because there is a super dangerous trap here called productive procrastination. This is when people accidentally completely misuse the system by staying busy with all those easy 2-minute tasks just to avoid the actual hard work. It's incredibly sneaky because it genuinely feels like you're being productive. So the crucial point here is that you need boundaries to fiercely protect your workflow. And here are 3 clear ones. Number 1, never ever interrupt real, focused, deep work to handle a quick 2-minute chore. Just let it wait. Number 2, eat the frog first. Basically, do your hardest, most important task early in the day when your willpower is completely full. Now, you can absolutely still use a 2-minute microaction to start that hard task, but make sure you're starting the big thing first. And number 3, save your actual 2-minute admin tasks for your low energy hours. You know, right after lunch when your brain is just kind of foggy, that is the absolute perfect time to knock out 10 tiny tasks. Save those high energy hours for the heavy lifting. And finally, Section 7, Removing Your Armor, the deeper insight. You know, once I finally started applying these boundaries and actually clearing the small stuff out of my daily life, it did something I completely didn't expect. It removed all the noise. And without that constant noise, my background anxiety just plummeted. But more importantly, it exposed the real, super vulnerable psychology of why I used to cram literally everything into the very last 12 hours. The honest truth I found underneath of it was just this: procrastination wasn't laziness. For me, it was a shield. Just think about it. If I gave a project my absolute full effort for 8 weeks and it still came back mediocre, well, that would mean my genuine absolute best simply wasn't good enough. But if I crammed it into 12 hours and got the exact same mediocre grade, I had this perfect built-in excuse. I could just tell myself, well, whatever, I didn't even really try. Cramming protected my self-worth from ever being truly tested.
The truth is, we are not really scared of failing. We're scared of what failing after truly, genuinely trying might say about who we are as people. But as the source material so powerfully puts it, your productivity is not your worth. And that isn't just some cheesy cliche. It is the absolute root of why so many of us run from the things that actually matter most to us. Now, the 2-minute rule doesn't just magically fix that deep-seated belief all on its own, but it does get you moving. It clears away all the trivial noise so you can finally look at that core belief honestly, instead of just running from it for one more day.
So I want to leave you with a quick challenge. Just look around you right now. What is one tiny task in your immediate vicinity that takes less than 2 minutes? A text you've been meaning to reply to? A coffee cup you need to put in a dishwasher? Go do it, right now. And then think of that one massive thing you have been avoiding for weeks. Don't commit to finishing it today. Don't even commit to a whole hour. Just commit to 2 minutes. Open the file, write one single sentence, start the clock. Because that is exactly how the whole thing starts. Dive in, take action, and I'll see you in the next explainer.